Welcome back to the Worthy Podcast. Today's episode is kind of coming out of nowhere. Over the last week, I had the pleasure of attending a in-person event with Dr. Gabor Maté, and I love his work. I don't know if you follow him online or if you know who he is, but he's a phenomenal human who is just doing really great work in the world, and I really love everything he has to say around trauma and childhood wounds and conscious parenting. And it's funny, right? Because I am so passionate about conscious parenting. I am a mama to a nearly 3-year-old, and I've never known how to integrate my love and desire for what I'm learning in regards to conscious parenting. I've never really been able to know how does that integrate into the work that I do. And it wasn't until I was listening to Gabor speak that I was like, oh my God, I see the connection in the work that I do and the conscious parenting piece. So this episode is kind of I have no intention with it other than to kind of riff with you about where showing up inauthentically in your business actually stems from and how we can heal that, why it's hurting us to show up as someone we believe we need to be in our business, and how we get to change that. So just to kind of rewind, I just want to go back to the speaking event that Gabor did here. And he, if you follow Gabor, you know that he talks a lot about childhood conditioning and how it shapes our authentic expression. So early experiences of being punished or being silenced for doing something or saying something that was inappropriate, those experiences, which were our authentic expression as a child, they create lasting patterns in us. And we may not have memories of the things that were said to us or the way that we were silenced, but we have what's called implicit memory. And this implicit memory of ours it comes out in the way that we behave. So I want to give you an example. Just imagine a 3-year-old, right? And he's just done something that is really quote unquote naughty, and they get sent to the naughty corner. Or maybe he or she is having a tantrum and just, expressing really big emotions, which at that age is very normal and very psychologically appropriate for a 3-year-old to express their emotions in a way that can be quite triggering for us as adults, right? So they're told, go to your room and have quiet time, or go to the naughty corner. And what they're learning in that moment is that feelings don't matter, and that their feelings and that how they feel right there in that moment isn't important. So this type of conditioning, and we don't do it on purpose as parents, but this type of conditioning carries on into our adulthood. And for those of us who are business owners, we behave in certain ways in our business that's actually stemming from this. So this is where people learn to dim their light, or they learn to be quiet or not speak out about something that they're passionate about, or they silence their true voice because they're so fearful of being shunned, being silenced, being cancelled, and then it prevents them from authentic expression, right? So what I want to do in this episode is kind of talk a little bit about where that inauthenticity of how we show up in our businesses, where it comes from, and how to heal it, how we can move beyond it so that we're living a life that's truly authentic to us. So if you've heard, I have a really beautiful experience and offering coming out soon. At the time of this recording, it's called The Cosmic CEO. If you're listening to this later on, it's probably out in the world already. Go and check out the website. It might be in waitlist mode, it might be in live mode at the time of you listening, but at the time of me recording this live, there is a waitlist for it. And it's something that's coming out that I'm working on behind the scenes right now, and really piecing the pieces together of how I can help and support women in business to stop playing small, and to stop, the self-criticism and the self-judgment, and really show up in their business in a way that is authentic to them and feels really good, right? So everything that I'm talking about right now in terms of childhood, if you want to call it trauma, or these implicit memories that we have of certain ways that we were parented, I want to just preface by saying, like, this isn't about judgment or criticism to your parents or even to yourself if you are a parent like myself. If you feel like you come across information today and you're like, oh my God, I feel really guilty, I do that with my child, I just want to stop you right there, right? Because this is nothing to do with criticizing ourselves or our parents, right? We always do our best with what we know at the time, and we always do our best with what we have access to. And when we know better and learn better, we have the opportunity to do better. So please don't listen to this episode and feel bad if you pick up on anything that you feel you do. I want this to be more of an empowering conversation to really just empower you with choices and an opportunity to change something that might better you or better your children or children that are coming if you're a planning parent, right? So it's not ever helpful to go back and blame our parents for the way that they were or are, or it's definitely not useful to blame ourselves for the way that we have parented our children. And it's not helpful to blame people, whether they're parents or significant influences in our lives, for what they didn't know at the time, okay? And my hope with this episode is that you find peace and acceptance through this conversation or through the work of the Cosmic CEO, because what the Cosmic CEO is, it's a journey of self-exploration through the lens of possibility and with healthy curiosity to explore where you're not showing up as yourself, okay? So the thing is, we all have these parts of ourselves that we hide away. Maybe we hide them because we've been told by someone, whether it was a family member, an older sibling, a parent, a teacher, that we shouldn't behave that way, okay? So it might be like, oh, you're so loud, like, quieten your voice, or don't be so demanding, or stop being so bossy, or that's very rude, or whatever it was that you were told to be less of as a child while you were expressing yourself authentically in that moment. Or maybe it doesn't come from your childhood at all. Maybe you had a really beautiful upbringing where you did have conscious parents who let you be you, but maybe it comes from like being bullied in different situations, whether it was at school as a child or maybe at uni later in life, college, for whatever reason, or it could even be from adulthood in our working environments, or if you're a business owner like me, like a troll that has said something on your social media and really made you question, who you are being because of the way that you have been authentically expressing, and someone has then told you to stop. So we are all, in one way or another, conditioned in both positive and negative ways throughout our entire life, whether it's childhood, like adolescence, teenagehood, adulthood. We are being conditioned throughout our life, and the goal isn't to escape the conditioning. I just want to really be firm with that. The goal is to just know yourself well enough to be resilient enough to know what is really you versus what is you because you've been told to be that thing, whether it's being influenced in life by people, friends, circumstances, events. We want to learn not to lose our identity and ourself in trying to be someone or something that we're not, or hiding who we really are deep inside, because it's painful. It is so painful when we deny aspects of ourselves because it's not the quote unquote norm, to be a certain way or express a certain way. When we silence that to make others comfortable, at the time we may not realize it, but later on it kind of bites us, because we're that's really uncomfortable that I can't be that way or say that thing, or I'm passionate about this thing but I can't share it the way I want to because it doesn't the algorithm of Instagram doesn't favor it, so I'm just going to be this way. So I really want to share a personal journey where I have been really working on moving through this, right? So for those of you who don't know, I have been in the direct sales profession it's coming up to 10 years this year, so a decade. And I love the industry. I still love it today as much as I did when I first started in 2015. However, throughout the last decade, and those of you who are like my day ones, you will know like I have a very deep love for spirituality, astrology, universal laws and principles, and concepts that have nothing to really do with my direct sales company, which is a health company, or like my sales world, right? But I have always had this strong interest in like metaphysical concepts and deep spiritual philosophies. It's always been a really big part of my world. It's always been a lot of like a big part of what I invest in and spend time reading about. But I never thought to integrate that love and passion into my work because I felt like it didn't marry up. I felt like this doesn't fit, like, and I really want to on teach what I learn to other people, but it doesn't fit into this business model that I have over here. So for 10 years I've been in the direct sales industry, lovingly by the way, because I am a manager and I do have multiple loves and values and passions. I'm multidimensional, multi-passionate. So I'm not saying that I was working out of alignment in that space, because I definitely am not. It's something that I love. But I had this other passion and love and this thing that I am like deeply passionate about talking about that I just silenced myself on. And this love and passion has like come out in little bursts, you know, here and there over the last 10 years. But like I've always dimmed it down and thought, no, this isn't the place, this isn't the space. So I just kept doing what was proven to, you know, create a paycheck for myself rather than following that authentic calling and deep desire of exploration and the deep desire to teach this completely other world of mine, because I couldn't see, you know, how I could integrate it into that business model, or I couldn't figure out how to do both at the same time. Okay. Then it wasn't until crisis and conflict kind of like entered my world in 2024, last year, that kind of became like a very big catalyst for change. And if you've listened to episode 109 of my other podcast with my bestie Loz, you would have heard all about the year that was 2024 for us, and for me particularly, like what I went through and kind of like how I took a really big sabbatical from my business because of a little bit of like drama and conflict that was happening in my business world. And that sabbatical and that like time away from business just like created this really beautiful space where I got to like really explore and hear that authentic calling within. And I wrote a book about it. I launched a really exciting mastermind that I'm so passionate about called Alchemy, which really like represents the alignment to this purpose that I have felt within me for so long. And, you know, full circle, like I've come back into a space where I am able to juggle all the businesses that I have, because yes, I do have my health business in direct sales. I do have my spiritual and astrology business outside of that. And then I do also have other businesses, like we've got luxury villas over in Bali. We've got an e-commerce business in the background that I don't really talk about, but that's happening too. And I got to see how I can do it all, how I can have this and that, and how I could have my cake and eat it too. But it was kind of like I needed that crisis point to like really like consolidate and go in through a journey of self-exploration, really, to understand like how this would look for me. And so yes, I'm still in my direct sales business, but I also get to fulfill this other part of me outside of that, which is here with you on this podcast and in my masterminds and in my offerings and coaching and all of that stuff. Like it gets to nourish this part of me that's so like such a big part of my life and my mindset and my heart. So, you know, now I am so deeply satisfied entering this year, because I'm like, oh my God, I get to do it all. Like I get to have this and that, and I love it. So the key realization that I've had about this personal change of mine is that I think for you to change and pivot in your business, the way that you operate in your business, maybe it's about pivoting your content pillars, or maybe it's about pivoting like how you show up and the boundaries that you hold within your business. Or maybe it's about completely pivoting your business model altogether. Like, I don't know. But if you're feeling like this incongruency in your business and you're feeling like there's a calling to do more, be more, have more, and you're like, I just don't understand what that looks like, or I do, but I'm too afraid. Like, please understand that this is you behaving in an inauthentic way, not in like I don't mean in a disingenuous way, but I mean it's you are suppressing a part of you that is trying to say to you that there's got to be a better way, there's got to be another way, there's got to be a way that allows you to be more fulfilled, more satisfied, more joyful. And I just really want to invite you to ask yourself, like, what's it going to take for you to make the move to go through this journey of self-exploration, really understand like who you are before you were told who you had to be. And that's what like the work within the Cosmic CEO really is about. As I'm starting to put all the content together and build it out, I've realized like it's not your traditional type of container where you're given strategies and things to follow. No, it has nothing to do with that. And I've always said, I'm not your strategy girl, I'm your energetics girl, right? What this container is really all about is it's a journey of self-exploration and finding out who you really are to your core, like your core essence. And I always get asked, like, what does it take for someone to go through that type of journey? Because it's a lot of being rather than doing. And I think that a lot of offerings that are out there in the world are very much about the doing. It's about implementing the strategies and the blueprints and the systems and the foundations, which are incredibly important, I should add. Like, I'm not saying they're not important. I think foundation systems and implementation and taking inspired action is absolutely what's necessary for a successful business. But if you don't have the energetics correct, if you don't know who you are, if you are acting from a place that is not you, then I believe that's why those strategies and the blueprints don't work. So I see myself like positioned in the space of business mentoring in that you've got the strategies. You've probably paid for all of the courses. You've listened to the podcast episodes. You've done the free masterclasses. You've hired the coach, and it's not working. I see myself coming into the space of like, yeah, but are your energetics correct? And are you following your unique blueprint? And are you following what is true to you and what is your unique strengths and gifts to then implement said strategies, right? So that's what the Cosmic CEO is really all about. It's what my mastermind Alchemy is all about, but Alchemy is very different as it's very like intimate one-on-one as a community space. There's one-on-one coaching with me within that container, whereas the Cosmic CEO is like a very like, it's a big part of Alchemy, but we discover your energetic blueprint to apply the energetics that you require to have that business of yours that you're so excited about growing to actually grow. So I believe that it takes sometimes like extreme discomfort or a crisis as a catalyst to kind of like not your rock bottom, but for you to be like, shit, something needs to change. And what I have found in my own personal journey and feeling like how I show up online and how I show up in my business right now is the truest and most authentic I have ever been in my life. And I have never been so satisfied and joy-filled in my business in the last 10 years of being in business. What I've come to realize is like the silence and the spaciousness that I created for myself last year was so essential in that, like actually listening to that authentic voice of mine. I guess I want to like say to you, like, don't wait for crisis or discomfort to be that catalyst for you. I want to invite you to really explore what would it look like if you just stopped doing? What if you just stopped implementing for a bit? And what if you just like detached yourself from the way that you show up and explore how you would show up in your business if you were truly authentic and you were really like embodied in who you are as a person, and taking the time to like really explore that before then implementing. That's what this really is all about. Like, it's all about true embodiment. Yeah, I think what has been really helpful for me and what has helped me create a business today that is just not only successful, because that's such a like external marker for me, but what's really allowed me to be in business and feel aligned in business is I focused on my energetics, not my strategy. And I, in the direct sales space, I used to have this conversation with people all the time, and they'd be like, I'm gonna quit, like I just feel so not aligned here. And I used to hear that all the time, and it never used to make sense to me. And I'd be like, why don't you feel aligned? Like, make yourself feel aligned, And now, like, on the other side of like my own, I suppose, my own journey of going through misalignment and inauthenticity and lacking embodiment, I'm like, oh, okay, it was actually like about being and self-exploration and getting to know Shani Thompson, like who she really is, instead of implementing and forcing and hustling and initiating. So yeah, that's what I'm really excited about sharing with you. And what I want to kind of highlight right now is really like inviting you to create spaciousness in your life for that self-discovery. But also I want to share a few examples of like how my own personal clients from the last 12 months have kind of come to this like coming to self moment. A lot of my clients that work with me, they come to me because they have tried multiple strategies at that point, like different programs, different coaches, with no success, right? They've invested a significant amount of money in proven systems, but they're exhausted from implementing and not getting the results that they believe they're worthy of, or they believe that were promised to them from said strategies and blueprints that they're following. So they're exhausted, and they come to me because they realize they're missing the energetic piece. They realize like they're not in alignment. They're actually like trying to force and initiate and hustle like all this implementation and strategies and blueprints. But them as a person, they are so out of whack energetically that and when they come to me, they realize, because I tell them this, that the investments that you've made in the coaches, in the courses, in the strategies, in the blueprints, they're actually not wasted. So please don't throw them away, and don't throw them in the bin and think I wasted my money there. You just need to build the proper foundations in your business to be able to implement those things from a place of A, regulation, so a very regulated nervous system, but B, energetic alignment. And so the foundational piece in all of this is you as the person who's leading the business, and you having an aligned energetic constitution, right? It's about you feeling like you know who you are. You're not dimming your light. You're not playing small. You aren't silencing yourself. None of that. You are actually showing up in your true, authentic expression, because you know that is authentic to you and aligned for you and energetically correct for you. So I want to give you some examples of how we behave inauthentically in our businesses, right? So it's like people pleasing, self-sabotaging, playing small, hiding out, and limiting our own joy for the sake of others just to make them feel comfortable. It's seeing other successful people online, maybe it's the way that they create content, and copying that because you see them creating success from it, but you feel like misaligned, like you kind of feel icky from doing it maybe, or like, I'll give you a tangible like example of this. There may be someone that you follow online who creates like really beautiful content, like very aesthetically pleasing B-roll. They go to the effort of creating professional content of themselves. And you go and try and do that for yourself, and you just hate it. You feel uncomfortable. It doesn't look as good. But like deep down inside, when we have a little look at like your natal chart, for example, and we realize where your Mercury is placed, the planet of communication, or what energy and cosmic placements lie in your third house, which is the house of communication, we actually realize like that is so not aligned for you. You are not meant to be filming yourself like doing pretty content and creating B-roll. Like, you may be an air sign, which is incredibly intellectual, and what actually you need to be doing is doing like face to camera stuff where you're talking about really like in-depth concepts and having a conversation with your audience about the things that you're passionate about, rather than like this pretty B-roll reel that has a trending audio on it with some writing, right? Maybe it's just like the difference in type of content. So that's another way, more ways that we stay out of alignment when we're in business is staying in a business model that doesn't light you up, but you do it because it pays the check, right? Or holding yourself back from like launching something that you're very aligned and passionate about, because it's a true interest of yours, but you're fearful of judgment. And that was definitely me with like my astrology piece and the universal laws and the spiritual concepts and philosophies that I'm so passionate about talking to you about here on this podcast and in my book and in my offerings. I held myself back for nearly 10 years from, like shining a light on this type of content because I was so afraid of what you would think of me. I was so afraid of people like unfollowing me or making fun of me, or I remember like reading a post from an ex-boyfriend of all people about like people who write depth and spiritual concepts and about spiritual concepts, and I don't think it was like a dig at me, but I remember reading it going like, oh, he's paying people out that like do that, so maybe I won't. So just like things like that is just like so out of alignment. It's so not authentic to who you really are meant to be. Maybe you're using like copy or marketing language or scripts that don't feel natural, and you're doing it because that's what converts. Or maybe you're creating social media content that is trending, but you actually hate it, and you like hate playing the Instagram game, and you're like, screw the algorithm, I don't want to follow the algorithm, I just want to post like what I want to post. Maybe you're like avoiding sharing vulnerably because as a child you were told to like stop whinging, or stop like if you were bullied at school, you were told like to just be tougher and stand up for yourself. So now as an adult, sharing vulnerably for you is actually a wound and a trigger point for you because you have this implicit memory of your childhood of being told to be quiet. So there's so many other ways, right? There's so many other ways that we show up inauthentically in our business, and it's not our fault, it's just our conditioning. So I think the solution to this is, like I said before, creating space for being and really like being open to self-exploration and finding out who you are to your core. And this is why I love using astrology in the Cosmic CEO, because it's about using your natal chart and your constitution, your energetic constitution, to understand and find clues more than anything, because the stars don't like tell us who we are, okay? They don't control us, but what they do show is they show clues to who and what and why. And they also give us little like breadcrumbs to different themes and archetypes that help us explore, well, how does that fit for me? How does that apply to me in my business? And how can I look at that through the lens of business and apply that thing? So that's why I'm very passionate about using astrology in this concept of applying it to your business to create a strengths-led business. I also believe part of the solution is like very much focusing on creating a regulated nervous system, because I feel like when we are regulated, we show up in our business regulated. But also I know for me, when I am regulated and my nervous system is, I don't want to say calm, because it's not about being calm. Self-regulation isn't about being calm. And I just want to I'm going to go on a different riff and tangent here, but I think social media is doing a really bad job of explaining what nervous system regulation actually really is. It's not about being calm. It's not about like suppressing the emotions that you have. Self-regulation and nervous system regulation is about actually like exploring the depths of all the emotions that you're feeling and sitting with them and exploring that and being okay with that. It's really about exploring the emotions that you're feeling and coming to a place of acknowledgement and coming to a place of acceptance. And that comes from deep self-discovery. That doesn't come from, like suppressing your emotions and moving on with your day, or like going for a beach walk or going to a bathhouse to like suppress the emotions that you're feeling. It's actually about sitting in the bathhouse and going through the emotions and potentially exploring where that wound comes from your childhood, where that trigger comes from. If someone triggers you, let's just talk about that for a second. It's actually not the person that you need to, I suppose, like neutralize. It's actually the event that you want to explore, and then link it back to like, well, where did this happen for me previously, and what have I learned about this feeling, and why am I demonizing it, right? So that's a whole other episode, and I won't go on that tangent here, but it's really about like prioritizing energetic alignment and creating a space for yourself where you get to authentically express. So yeah, I love to do that, exploring our charts. I love to do that by helping you shift, like instead of a performative way of showing up in your business, it's actually like about, well, what does genuine self-expression look like for you, and what's enjoyable for you, and what's exciting for you, and what are you passionate about, and what do you want to talk about, and how does that look? So it's really about finding your natural way of being, your natural way of showing up, and really allowing like your authentic voice to emerge within, the communication archetypes and themes that are right for you, right? Maybe you're meant to be a writer, whether it's writing long form content, blogging, writing a book, whatever, versus maybe not. Maybe you're meant to be using your voice in the way of a podcast, or speaking on stages, or talking face to camera. There's maybe like a specific way that's energetically correct for you to share your message, but the way that you're doing it right now is not correct for you, and it's out of alignment, and it feels weird for you, and you're feeling resistance, but you don't know why. So that's what the Cosmic CEO is really going to help you explore. It's really going to help us come home to ourselves of like, oh, I've always had a deep calling to start a podcast. Maybe that's it for me, right? It's about trusting that inner knowing and coming back to the inner knowing rather than suppressing the inner knowing. So yeah, I guess like what I really want to end this on, because this was just this was just really a conversation that sparked up. It was a self conversation with myself that I was having. And I was like, I'm just going to record, because of the childhood conditioning that I was prompted to remember from the talk of Gabor Maté and his books, and really like seeing the connection of like how I believe that you can actually bring those conditioning behaviors to your adulthood, where you suppress feelings and you dim your light and you people please and you show up as someone that you're really not, because as a child you were told to stop being so loud, or stop being so much, or stop this or stop that, or go to your naughty corner, or go to your room, or stop crying, you're being silly, all those things that is no one's fault. It just is what it is. I then believe we bring that conditioning into our businesses and into our life, but obviously like today's conversation is in the context of business and through the lens of how you show up as an entrepreneur. And I believe that when we can use different modalities, and astrology being one of them, because that's my wheelhouse and what I love to teach and what I am passionate about, when you learn to embrace your authentic self expression, your authentic self, your core essence through your astrology, and you use your chart as a guide to like lessen the pain by shifting the conditioning we hold, and really like understand who we really are to our core, and see ourselves for who we are and what we are and what we bring to the world and the value that we bring to others. Like I really believe it's a big piece in the coming home to self and showing up authentically online and in our businesses. I think that astrology really helps us to look inside the window to see the parts of us that we have been denying or hiding, and it really gives us this permission slip to become who we naturally really are and who we actually to our core really want to be. And so when we align with our chart energetics and our archetypes, we're able to discern like with this inner knowing and like certainty of who we uniquely are, and we get to honor that, and we get to give ourselves what we need to thrive in life as parents, as business owners. And I think it's a really beautiful journey. I think it's for me personally, it's been one of the most incredible journeys of self-exploration, and I know that there's more to go. I know that I can go deeper with my own journey in this, but it's been such a fresh breath of air, and it's felt so freeing. And I just want to bring that experience to people, because I feel like it has made me a better wife, a better friend, a better sister, daughter, parent. Because what I'm doing now is I'm showing up authentically as me, and particularly in my parenting, like I'm self-regulated, which means I get to be regulated for Rui when he's not regulated, which means that we get to co-regulate. And it's so phenomenal to watch the difference in like understanding this so deeply, that the way that I can get triggered in a moment is actually an implicit memory, and it's coming from my childhood, and I'm just repeating a pattern. And instead I get to regulate myself and I get to change it. I get to like change the way that we move forward, and I get to allow Rui to be his authentic self, whether it's a tantrum about the cup I use to pour his smoothie in, it's not the right cup, and he's having this really big emotional event about it. And instead of being frustrated at him and being like, oh my God, like this is like so silly, or you're being so unreasonable. PS, like kids at that age, like they don't have a rational brain at that moment, right? So like I'm able to just like sit with him in that moment, get down to his level, look into his eyes, and just allow him to feel his feelings and say, Rui, like I can see you're so upset, aren't you? And he'll say, yes, I'm so upset. And I'll say, I can see you're upset because mummy poured the smoothie in this cup and you didn't want that cup. And he'll say, yeah. And I'll say, I totally understand. Well, why don't you tell me what cup you would love that smoothie to be poured into? And he will say that one. And I'll say, okay, let's do that and pour it. And then I'll say, how do you feel? And he'll say, good. And he'll be totally like regulated, and he'll drink his smoothie. And it's phenomenal to like understand like what I've done just there is broken ancestral patterns of inauthentic expression, right? And I want to bring that to the table. I want to bring this conversation to the table and in the rooms of business owners and women who are shining their light, and particularly business owners who are parents too. Like you don't have to be a parent, but I'm just saying if you are a parent, like having the awareness of this, like one little thing alone is absolutely game changing. And so like I can't heal your childhood wounds, but what I can do is teach you how to read your natal chart to really like sink deeper into who you really truly are before you were told who you had to be, and help you to really like let go of the patterns that we have been repeating, often since childhood. People pleasing, self-sabotaging, playing small, hiding out, limiting our joy, making others comfortable. Like it's just like it's work that I have enjoyed doing myself, and it is work that I am loving to teach other people. So this was just like a little riff more than anything on what my brain is thinking about today and what I'm so excited to bring to the world. And so if this conversation has really inspired you and you're curious about the Cosmic CEO, which is coming out very, very soon, the waitlist is open. The waitlist comes with all types of different gifts, but my favorite one is $500 off your enrollment for when the doors open. So I'd love to invite you to join the waitlist. You'll be the first to know when it's ready. You'll be the first to have access to it before it is publicly announced. And I'm just more than anything so excited to just help women in particular who really see themselves in a place of difficulty in business to really come forward in a way that is truly authentic to them. So it has been a pleasure having this conversation with you, even though you're not talking to me, I'm just riffing here. It has been so fun to like get that all out of my brain. So I hope you loved that conversation. And if you've had any ahas about this and you want to continue the convo, my DMs are always open, and I love to have these types of conversations with you. So please pop on over to my Instagram and let's continue the convo there. Okay, my loves, love you, and see you in the next episode.